He first aligns his foot with the shoe, then slices off the excess length with a single cut to make a mark. Next, he places the knife right on the marked line, and finally, with one blow, chops off his toe. Because by doing this she would be able to fit into that shoe and compete with her stepsister for the chance to marry the prince, becoming the princess that all the other girls envy. But she was supposed to cut her left foot, yet Ella ended up cutting her right foot instead, so when her mother found out, she thoughtfully helped her cut off the left foot as well. However, in order to win the prince's heart, Ella didn't just resort to extreme measures once. From her original appearance, she underwent cosmetic surgery after surgery until she became stunningly beautiful. The price she paid had reached the point of grotesque self-mutilation. Ella thought that by doing all this, she could win the prince's heart, but in the end, she realized the joke was on herself. The story begins with Ella, her mother and her sister riding in a carriage to visit a nobleman. This nobleman's wife had passed away, and he was looking for a companion, while Ella's mother, having been widowed for many years, no longer wished to remain alone. During their conversation, the two exchanged glances and took a liking to each other. It was clear from their eyes that they had found the right person. On the very day they met, they couldn't help but hold a wedding. But that night, while eating the celebratory cake, no one expected that the old man, though advanced in years, was still young at heart. He playfully started a cake-throwing game, tossing cake onto Ella's face, which had everyone laughing with delight. But as everyone was laughing, the old man suddenly seemed to have trouble catching his breath and choked. He coughed up a mouthful of blood and died on the spot. Ella's mother was completely stunned by this. On her wedding day, her husband was gone just like that. The next day, Ella went to the room to comfort the old man's only daughter, Jenny. But from Jenny, she learned that her father, despite being a noble, had only married Ella's mother, who had no status, because their family had gone bankrupt. If it weren't for the little bit of money Ella's mother had, they would never have let their family in. Ella rushed to tell her mother about this, and her mother was so furious that she collapsed to the ground. After all, as an old widow with two useless daughters, it had been hard enough for her to marry into nobility. Now her husband was dead, and on top of that, they were penniless. Realizing how hard things were for her mother, Ella said that she could go and marry a wealthy man. But her mother knew that, with Ella's ugly appearance, there was no hope of her marrying into a wealthy family. It wasn't until the royal messenger arrived one day that Ella became overjoyed. It turned out that the king and prince were planning to hold a court ball at the castle, and they had specially invited noble young ladies to attend. Because the prince was going to choose a girl at the ball to be his wife, and since Ella, as Jenny's stepsister, now counted as a noble, she also received an invitation. This made Ella so happy that she couldn't stop smiling, because she had always dreamed of marrying the prince. She immediately began to imagine how romantic it would be to be with him in the future. However, if she wanted to seize this opportunity, Ella's current looks definitely wouldn't be enough. Fortunately, there was still some time before the ball, so her mother hurriedly sold everything they had to pay for Ella's plastic surgery, and even specifically sought out an experienced cosmetic surgeon. The surgeon simply measured with a ruler, and immediately knew which parts of Ella needed to be fixed. First, her metal braces had to be removed, then the protruding part of her nose needed to be trimmed a bit, and finally, a set of false eyelashes would be sewn onto her eyelids. With Ella's natural features, this would be enough to capture the prince's heart. Hearing this, Ella was so happy she couldn't stop smiling. After that, Ella first had her metal braces removed. When she looked in the mirror, she really did look much more refreshed. Next came the nose surgery. The surgeon aimed a chisel at the protruding nasal bone and, without any anesthesia, hammered it bit by bit until it was broken. After the surgery, Ella has to keep wearing this nose tip until she's fully recovered before she can take it off. At the ball, all the girls are supposed to perform a group dance. To make Ella stand out more, her mother even bribed the dance teacher to put her in the center position. The teacher was actually reluctant at first, but Ella's mother offered too much to refuse. Ella has always had a habit of eating late-night snacks, so she's as fat as a pig. In order to avoid dieting but still keep her figure, she secretly went to the woods and swallowed tapeworm eggs, so that when she binged, the worms would absorb the nutrients. But she had no idea how severe the side effects of the tapeworm eggs could be. The ending is quite appetizing, so I suggest you watch this before eating. Right after Ella swallowed the tapeworm eggs, she heard a man's voice nearby. She walked over to check and found that it was the prince and a few of his friends hunting in the woods. When Ella saw her dream lover, the prince, she got so excited that she almost tripped, and the noise she made caught the group's attention. This was also the first time she and the prince locked eyes. Just as Ella was gazing affectionately at the prince, he suddenly spoke to her. "Where did this ugly duckling come from?" And the prince's friend standing nearby also teased her. Ella was hurt by this and ran away shyly, but soon after, she still hid not far away to secretly admire the prince. She was so captivated that her soul almost seemed to fly over to embrace him, and she started fantasizing about being together with the prince again. At night, as Ella was passing by the stables on her way home, she suddenly heard Jenny's voice. She was very curious what was Jenny doing in the stables so late at night. When she walked in to take a look, she was stunned. Jenny was actually secretly doing that kind of thing with the stableman. It turned out that Jenny had always had a special relationship with the family's stableman. But Jenny was a noble, and the stableman was a servant. Even if they loved each other, they didn't dare make their relationship public, let alone get married. Jenny was going to attend the ball and might be chosen by the prince. It would be difficult for them to meet again then, so they cooked the meal first to show that they had loved each other. But unexpectedly, Ella, that unlucky girl, happened to catch them. The next day, Ella told her mother about it, and her mother was so furious she almost kicked Jenny out of the house. Because Jenny was naturally beautiful, even if the prince didn't choose her, it would be easy for her to marry into a noble family with good prospects, yet she just had to fall for the stableman. Her mother punished her by making her do chores at home like a servant, and forbade her from attending the prince's ball. Ella was absolutely delighted. Less competitor meant she was one step closer to marrying the prince. She quickly took out the snack she had hidden under her bed behind her mother's back to celebrate. As for the stableman, things turned out badly for him. He was immediately driven away by the mother. Jenny could only watch reluctantly as the stableman she loved left her. Not long after, Ella's nose had almost fully recovered. After removing the nose guard, Ella did look much prettier, with no trace of any surgical work at all. Both mother and daughter were full of praise for the plastic surgeon's skills, but Ella still wasn't completely at ease. Looking out the window at Jenny working, she still felt there was a big difference between herself and Jenny. So Ella followed the plastic surgeon's advice and got false eyelashes as well. The plastic surgeon placed the false eyelashes under her eyelids and then stitched them directly with a surgical needle. This part is so realistic and intense that I'm too scared to watch, so you shouldn't watch it either. After the surgery, Ella was in so much pain that she couldn't sleep all night, and at that moment, she felt something wriggling in her stomach. Obviously, Ella had been eating too much and without any restraint, so the worm egg inside her had already grown quite a bit. As a result, Ella now gets hungry even faster than before, so she comes to the kitchen more frequently at night. One day, Jenny heard noises in the kitchen and thought there was a burglar in the house. She almost grabbed a cleaver and attacked Ella. Seeing that Ella had just had surgery and was having trouble finding food because of her eyes, Jenny, setting aside their past grievances, took care of Ella by bringing her food and helping her with everything she needed. Not long after, due to the parasite eggs, Ella discovered that she had started losing her hair from malnutrition, which gave her quite a scare. But in order to maintain her figure before marrying the king, she still refused to take the antidote and continued to let the tapeworm stay in her stomach and absorb her nutrients. Soon after, the day finally arrived for Ella to attend the ball. In order for Ella to stand out among the crowd, her mother even spent a fortune to hire a dressmaker to custom make an unbelievably beautiful gown just for her. But during the fitting, her mother discovered that Ella's hair had almost all fallen out. What should they do? Fortunately, the dressmaker was professional and provided a full-service experience, even custom making a beautiful wig for Ella on the spot. Tomorrow we're going to become even richer. That night, Jenny was secretly preparing clothes to attend the ball because Ella's mother didn't want her to go and had put away all the decent outfits. In the end, Ella caught her. When Ella found out Jenny wanted to go, she feared the prince would be taken, so she angrily rushed over and tried to tear Jenny's dress. At that moment, their mother heard the commotion, hurried over to stop them, and comforted Ella, saying Jenny didn't even have a decent dress, so she couldn't win the prince. Besides, Jenny's dress was so tacky it was embarrassing, which finally put Ella's mind at ease. Soon, the day of the ball arrived. As soon as Ella reached the outside of the castle, she was stunned by its magnificence. The prince's home was so grand and beautiful, it was almost unreal. At that very moment, Ella felt as if she had stepped into a fairy tale world. With the help of technology and her stunning attire, she truly stood out from all the other noble girls. However, Ella suddenly became nervous again, because the bug in her stomach was getting bigger and hungrier, now tossing and turning inside her, eager to eat something. But at this moment, the ball had already begun. The host was holding a list, calling out the noble girls to make their entrance one by one. The first to appear was a noble girl named Nicole, 16 years old, 1.75 meters tall, who loved eating beef and fruit, and enjoyed flower arranging and embroidery. However, the prince didn't seem very interested in this type, but a few of his close friends thought she was nice, and wanted to give it a try. Soon it was Ella's turn to appear, and to everyone's surprise, she stunned all the men as soon as she entered. The prince's close friends were so captivated that they didn't even want to blink, and even the prince himself was completely mesmerized. None of the three recognized her as the ugly duckling they had met in the woods before. Afterwards, they performed the dance they had prepared over the past few days in the castle, and the already eye-catching Ella stood out even more in the center position. After the dance, they changed back into their clothes and got ready for the prince's bride selection ceremony. All the girls stood in a line on the stage, waiting for the prince to choose among them. It was truly enviable. The prince, acting very gentlemanly, started at one end and observed each girl as he walked by. Suddenly, he stopped in front of one girl, which made Ella extremely anxious. Could it be that the prince wasn't interested in the technology she wore? Fortunately, the prince then turned his head toward Ella and walked straight over to her. It turned out the prince had just been pretending earlier. He had already chosen Ella in his heart. The tapeworm in her stomach started acting up, and a wave of nausea hit Ella. She rushed to the changing room, only to vomit worm eggs from her mouth. It turned out the tapeworm had grown and laid offspring inside her. Her mother walked in, saw Ella, and slapped her hard. She didn't care what was happening to Ella, just urged her to pull herself together and seize tonight's chance. Even if she couldn't win the prince, finding another nobleman at the event would still mean a comfortable life. Many nobles wanted to get to know Ella, but Ella only had eyes for the prince. She had no interest in the advances of the other nobles and, at most, would just dance with them to be polite. Her gaze stayed on the prince and the mysterious girl. As she watched, she realized the girl was actually Jenny. Anger welled up in Ella while Jenny, having been discovered, was frightened and ran. The prince already loved Jenny, so he chased after her, but he didn't catch up. He only found one of Jenny's shoes left behind, so the prince made an announcement, like being away from home, but 7 high school.
I will marry you. After returning home, Ella confronted Jenny with a knife and threatened her to hand over the other shoe. Ella managed to snatch the shoe, but her foot was several sizes too big and she simply couldn't fit into it. So, for the sake of the prince, she went so far as to cut off her own foot. After cutting it off, Ella was in so much pain she fainted on the spot. Then her mother realized Ella had cut off the wrong foot, so thoughtfully she went ahead and cut off Ella's left foot too. The next day, her mother told the prince, and Ella put on that plain dress to greet him. The prince gently lifted Ella's foot and put the shoe he was holding onto it, finding it fit perfectly, neither too big nor too small. All I can do is give my most heartfelt blessings to my beloved. Only now do I realize how much you've told me. However, this was a dream Ella had while unconscious. Her feet still couldn't walk properly. At that moment, Ella heard the prince arriving. He had already started searching for the shoe's owner and found his way here. Ella lost her mind. She ignored her foot injury and appearance, determined to meet the prince. Though she couldn't walk, she was willing to crawl, only wanting to prove she could fit the shoe. Then she fell down the stairs and was in so much pain she couldn't move. Just then, she ran into Jenny, who was about to greet the prince. Jenny was stunned how disheveled and desperate Ella looked. Born beautiful, Jenny may never understand why Ella would go so far. In the end, Jenny married the prince, but loved the stable boy. The prince married his dream girl. As for Ella, she might never move on, but she also realized that forcing marriage only ends in failure.